To Science TV 4 p.m. Brief News. I am your host, Edna Kaindi, and this is my sign language interpreter voicing Esther Kendi. On to the news updates, we have the government has allocated 6 billion to support drought-affected counties, including Wajir, Garissa, and Tana River, as arid regions face severe food and water shortages. At least 2.1 million people are reported to be affected by poor rains and crop failure, prompting urgent humanitarian intervention. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki urged Kenyans to remain calm while the government implements relief measures. He chaired a high-level meeting with Cabinet Secretaries and county officials to coordinate food, water, and livestock support across most affected regions. The officials say that the funding will cover human and livestock needs for the forthcoming months, including food, water, and medical supplies. And authorities emphasized continued preparedness to close monitoring until the next long rains are expected from March to May. Another news update, doctors and medical staff in Nairobi County public hospitals have vowed to continue their strikes over delayed salaries and stalled promotions. The industrial action, which began on 19th December 2025, reflects growing frustration among healthcare workers over unpaid arrears and unfulfilled agreements. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmaceuticals and Dentist Union, KMPDU, accused the county government of ignoring their grievances. The union says repeated assurances to resolve salary and career progression issue have not been honored, forcing staff to maintain industrial action. The public health care services remain disrupted, with outgoing patients and non-emergency services scaled down. The union has insisted that work will only resume once the county addresses both delayed and stalled promotions. On other news, we have the Employment and Labor Relations Court has issued temporary conservatory orders preventing the suspension or removal of GAD CEO Roy Sasaka Telewa. The court barred the GAD board and officials from taking any steps aimed at terminating his employment while the case proceeds. Justice Jemima Mwanza Kelly granted the orders on 13th January 2026, citing urgency, and scheduled the full hearing for 21st January. Respondents have been given 7 days to file their responses, while the court warning that disobedience could attract penalties. The move follows a recommendation by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for Telewa's suspension over alleged unexplained wealth and abuse of office. Investigations by the commission include searches at his residence and office are ongoing, but no formal charges have been filed. News updates: the Judicial Service Commission (JSC) has advertised a vacancy for the Supreme Court judge to replace the late Justice Muhammad Ibrahim, who passed away in December 2025. The position was published in the Kenya Gazette as the commission begins their process of identifying a suitable candidate for the 7th member bench. Qualified candidates are invited to apply with requirements including a recognized law degree, at least 15 years of legal experience, and adhering to the integrity standards set out in the Constitution. Applications may come from backgrounds as judges, legal practitioners, or academics who will serve until the required age of retirement, which is 70 years. The vacancy is significant given the Supreme Court's role in handling presidential election disputes and other constitutional matters. The process of selection will involve shortlisting, public interviews, and presidential nominations, followed by a parliamentary vetting before the new judge is sworn in. On other news, the High Court in Nairobi has refused to stop the arrest of Rastafarian over cannabis use, while the petition challenging narcotics law is pending. The community seeks a relief from law criminalizing possession and use of marijuana, which they argue infringes on their rights to religious freedom and privacy. Justice Bahati Mwamuye directed the petitioners to file a specific application if they want protection from further arrests, harassment, or house searches. But until then, the police are legally allowed to continue enforcing existing drug laws. The Rastafarian Society of Kenya contends that cannabis is a central part of their faith and that current enforcement deprioritizes affects their members. Government lawyers maintain that the law are necessary for public health and safety, opposing the broad injunction. Final update, the global temperature in 2025 ranked as the third highest on record. That is according to the data from the European Union Copernicus Climate Change Services. The report confirmed that the last 11 years are now the warmest ever recorded, highlighting a continuing trend of an unpredictable global heat. Average global surface temperature last year was approximately 1.47 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, with scientists linking the prolonged heat to rising greenhouse gas emissions, and observers note that 2023 to the 2025 marked the first consecutive 3-year period existing the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. The extreme warmth has contributed to record heat waves, low polar ice cover, and other climate impacts worldwide. Experts warn that without urgent climate action, higher temperatures and associated environmental risks are likely to persist and intensify in the coming years. And we've come to the end of the news updates. Thank you so much for joining us here at Science TV News. I have been your host, Edna Kaindi, and my sign language interpreter voicing Esther Kendi. Enjoy the rest of the programs.